So, welcome back to another episode of Tapping into Life. I am your host, Brenda Holder, and I am really excited about this episode. This is all about, as I've talked about before, let's connect to our mind, body, and soul. That's what tapping into life is all about. And this guest is going to really talk to us and give us some amazing strategies all about that. She's going to focus on not just the body, but the mind and the soul. So I want you to get comfortable, get a cup of tea, whatever you do to tap in. I'm welcoming you to do that right now because there's going to be some really good nuggets here. I want to tell you a little bit about this amazing guest that I have with me today, and her name is Navin Jetha, and she teaches and inspires her clients to incorporate gentle and simple yet powerful techniques to end back pain so that they can take charge of their life, reclaim their energy, and live their life to the fullest. She's a health coach as well as she teaches fitness and yoga that focuses on ending back pain. I can't wait to hear about this. Her warm personality, her passion for health, experience, and passion for people have helped many students end their back pain for life. Navin's custom program trains professionals to learn simple and powerful techniques and to tap into the mind and body's natural ability to end pain. Sounds amazing. Many of these simple techniques can be incorporated throughout the day while working at the office or just doing your regular day-to-day stuff. Navin believes when we as humans take charge of our health, the mind and body responds and creates optimal health. I couldn't agree with this more. So I look so forward to this conversation with my beautiful guest, Navin. Thank you for joining us on Tapping into Life.
Well, thank you so much, Brenda. That was an amazing introduction. Really appreciate that. And yeah, what would you like me to talk about first?
So I would love to hear a little more about yourself. I know that I gave the audience a little bit of an intro, but maybe you could share with us a little bit about your cultural background, where you grew up, where you're living currently, and if you'd like to share your astrology signs, that would be fun too.
Okay. So I grew up in Africa, East Africa, and it's a small country. Tanzania is a small country in Africa. And I grew up there, and then we moved here many years ago to Canada. So but now I see myself as a Canadian, right? Because I mean, I've been here longer than back home. But the journey of moving from there to here, I'll tell you a little bit about it. So when I first came to Canada, it was very overwhelming for me. I was young and, the big city, because I came from a really tiny town. So that was the overwhelm. So, I mean, I have lived with that kind of stuff for a while. And so I will bring it up as we go. But in the meantime, right now I'm in Canada and I live in Calgary, Alberta. And I love living here. Canada is one of the best countries to live in the world. So I'm really, really grateful to be living here. Even though when I first moved, I did miss my back home because it's a nice tiny little community, like a one street town. It was a one street town, and I knew everybody in the town. So it was a big shock, right? And so that's basically my background. And the culture I grew up in, I'm a Muslim woman. I grew up in a bit of a strict culture, I had to be a certain way, follow certain rules. And then when I moved to Canada, it was a bit different. It was like, okay, life is a little different here. You can let your hair down a little bit. So there was a bit, quite a culture shock I had to face, at a young age. So the reason I'm talking about that is to help you see where I come from and where I am now. And And also, my zodiac sign you wanted me to mention. I'm a Gemini. So it's interesting. I've got two minds, apparently. And it's interesting how I see myself as kind of like two different people, right? The person that grew up in a small town and then moved here, and then this other person. And to integrate those two was my challenge. Okay, so that's my background. And another part I really wanted to mention is that when I did move here, what ended up happening is years later, this was years later, I went in through a healing journey. I discovered who I really am. I got laid off from a job, and all these things happened. And when I was going through that journey, that's when I became aware and realized that I had left a part of myself back there. All of me wasn't here. And this is what kind of has initiated what I currently do. Okay, is help people with their back pain. And and the reason that happened is because I'll tell you a little story. So what happened was I left part of myself back home. And it's almost like I left my roots there, but brought the rest of me here. So it kind of felt like my back was broken into two. It's like a tree trunk. If I took the roots away and brought the trunk and left the roots behind. And then when I went through my healing journey, I had to put that back together. Okay, so that's how I see the back. The way I see the back is not just physical. Okay, there are emotions involved in me bringing my other parts back here. There was a spiritual aspect of it. So it required me to be physical. Obviously, there was a physical aspect to it. There was a mental aspect, a emotional aspect, and a spiritual aspect. So it had to come here, bring it all here in one place, and an integration had to happen. Right? So this is basically how I see my background. Even though, like, of course, I'm a Muslim woman, um, yes, that's fine. But really, I think if I describe my journey that way, then I can say that we all have that. We are all the same that way. Like we have our mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, And so if I look at it that way, it really doesn't matter what culture I am, whether I'm a Muslim or whether I'm English or native or whatever culture I am. It really doesn't matter because we all have that. So that's how I see it. And with the zodiac sign, I think I don't really that much pay attention, but it really kind of helps me see that there is two of me still. Even though I feel integrated, there are still two parts of me, and that's really helpful to see that. Yeah, so that's basically my background. So if you have another question, let me know.
Yeah, I love that, explanation. I think that that is a beautiful way to look at things because I think when I think way back, this is going back to like 23 years ago, I had a herniated disc and it was a terrifying time in that I couldn't walk and I had just had a baby and he was, coming up to a year. But for me, I had no concept of emotional health, spirituality, like there, none of that existed in my world. And so I love that you're talking about this and really, bringing it together. And this is what I'd like to talk about on this podcast. So this is perfectly aligned with what we're talking about here. And so leads me to my next question, which is what does tapping into life mean for you personally?
Okay, so tapping into life, really, actually, for me, it means that life is okay. I'm going to go straight to it. Life, when I think of life, right, I can't see a conceptual. When I say life, I don't. My mind doesn't come up with some conceptual picture of it, right? I just know it's life. And I feel like when I'm feeling life, when I know life, I feel it as flow. Life to me is this river within me that flows and I flow through it. So tapping into life, what that means to me is I'm actually tapping into that flow of life. Okay. So even though I know you do the tapping, right? So let's say somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm feeling really anxious about something." And you say, "Okay, let's tap this away." And when you tap it away, the person hopefully calms down, comes into a more relaxed state, and hopefully taps into that flow and just feels calmer. And I think that's what it does. Tapping into life is brings the person to their center, to that place of flow. And the other thing I want to say about that is, and the person might not even realize that that's what's actually happening. But like when we become more and more aware of who we really are, what tapping does is it peels those layers away of like, I'm feeling anxious and I'm hurt and I'm scared and I'm angry, and just peel those feeling like, emotions that are actually preventing that flow to arise, So but when we are tapping, that's what we're doing. And the best thing about it is that when we do remove these pieces, and who knows how they got there, I could go to another place there, but as we peel these off, if we take off the hurt and the pain and the resentment and all that, the flow just automatically arises. It just starts flowing. You don't have to go and force the flow to happen or anything like that. All you have to do is carve out, just take off what is not you, and then who you are will emerge. Just like that famous analogy of David, he carved, right? Was it Michelangelo? Michelangelo carved David. And what he did is he just brought him to life. Just like that's it. We just come to life. And that's what tapping into life does. It brings us back to life, into that center of who we are.
I love that. That's such a beautiful way of explaining it and so simple. And I think, when I think back to my journey when I was dealing with all my different health issues, I was basically walking around with my head, nothing was going on down here. Yet that's where all my issues were, right? I had, it started with my back, then I had endometriosis, but the whole point of what I'm sort of saying with what you're, talking about is I didn't realize my emotions were connected to my body and that we stuff it all down and it lives in our body. It lives in our hips and our shoulders and in our spine, our nervous system. But it's so important to have these conversations because especially with the way, we're just going through life, right? I know for me, I've had a lot of defaults, right? Where I'm like, this is just a pattern of behavior that I just keep repeating, even though I'm like, why do I keep doing this? But it just becomes second nature, like we just do it without even thinking about it. It's like brushing your teeth. You just do it. You can do it with your eyes closed. So we kind of get into a habit of doing a lot of these things and not think about, oh my gosh, this is really not serving me for my higher good. It's not, I'm taking care of everybody. I'm running around, with my head cut off. And it's like, oh my gosh, now my body hurts. My back is sore. I've got stomach, gut issues. It's like, Oh my gosh, what's going on? And we have to look at the whole package. So I'm really excited to dive into this more with you.
Mhm.
So I would love to hear some suggestions you have for keeping our body
Mhm.
and, incorporating this with our mind and our soul, like healthy and strong. What are some great suggestions that you would like to share with the listeners?
Yeah. Like you mentioned right now, right? When life gets overwhelming or we're running around like that, we're not aware of our feelings, what we're feeling. We're just into this doing mode. I have to cook dinner, I have to go to work, I have to take the kids to school, whatever is going on, I have to, and without that awareness of the feelings, right? And the things will happen in the body, like you said, my back hurts, or I've got shoulder pains, or my feet hurt, or whatever is going on, right? I have a headache, whatever it is. And that's a sign your body is trying to tell you something. Your body is communicating with you. And a lot of the times we're not paying attention to those signals. And so, what I would suggest is to pay attention to those. That's the first thing. So, okay, I have a headache. I'm just going to take a medication, over the counter medication. Maybe perhaps do something different and say, you know what? Okay, I have a headache. Let me take a moment, pay attention to this. Maybe I'll just sit down for a moment, take a couple of deep breaths, see what's going on. Let me slow down. Let me connect with my breath. Let me see what's coming up. Oh, there's a feeling coming up. Okay, well, what feeling is coming up? Tune into it. Because I think most of us, with the feelings coming up, we want to push it away and say, "Ah, I don't have time for you. I don't want to feel this." It's like a lot of us are actually afraid to feel our feelings, you know? And so and like you said, we are in a pattern of pushing away. It's just become a habit. So to get out of these kinds of habits, you want to invite the feeling, and whatever it is, it might not feel the best, but it's not going to kill you. You just want to feel it. And once you do, you feel so much better. So the first thing you want to do is pay attention to your body. So a physical symptom could be a sign that there's something emotional happening in your body, right? It's not just physical. And that's what I'm here to say is that your back pain, for example, is not just a physical thing. I can teach you an exercise. Okay, yeah, let's do some core exercises. Let's do some posture exercises. Yes, I would love it that you do that. That's amazing. But that's not everything, right? Yes, do the exercise, eat well. You got to do a holistic thing. You got to eat well, do the exercise, and you want to also tune into your body signals. You want to feel those feelings. Okay. So there's a few things you can do, you have control over already, right? So just the basic three things: your physical, get moving, maybe go for a walk, even a small thing, right? 10-15 minute walk a day, or do some core exercises, make sure you're sitting tall in your chair, posture exercises. And then the food, eating, that's also like considered kind of physical, right? Sometimes it can also dive into the emotions of eating and what I want to eat and what makes me feel good, So food can be a little bit like it makes me feel good mentally, it makes me feel good physically, it makes me feel good emotionally. So you can control that, but you have power over choosing what you eat. You have power with choosing to exercise, to not exercise. And it doesn't have to be like a lot of exercise, just gentle, basic, simple things you can do. Okay. And the third thing is that you are dealing with your emotions on a daily basis. It's just called lifestyle. It's like learning to live a different way, different lifestyle, rather than ignoring feelings. Then, you want to integrate all those three. Okay. And then, of course, you might have a spiritual way that you want to bring that in, and maybe bring some mindfulness. Maybe you decide you want to journal. every day at the end of the day and see how your day was and how you can, release that day so then you start fresh the next day or something like that. Or you might want to get up and do some kind of spiritual practice. It could be, again, it could be journaling. It could be just going for a mindfulness walk. It could be anything, right? Or just some breathing exercises that you could do. Okay, so those are the tips I would do. I would first pay attention to your body because it's trying to tell you something. And then decide what you want to change. Do you want to start with physical? Start with physical. Like I said, take a 10-minute walk every day or every other day. Whatever you can incorporate into your schedule, something like that. So those kinds of tips, right? Eating healthy, just everything I've already mentioned.
Yeah, I love those suggestions. And you made it sound like it's a really simple thing. Like it doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, I need to, carve out all this time in my day because I hardly have enough time as it is, right? I'm like, running around, and especially like my boys are older. I think you have older children, but even sometimes they need my assistance, right? I need to be driven here, or can you help me with this? It's other people needing our time, right? It's not like we're just looking after ourselves. We're always kind of taking care of other people in different capacities. So finding that time, carving out that little precious time for ourselves, I like those suggestions because they're really simple. Like I could literally take 5 minutes and connect to my breath. I love the idea that you were talking about is that when you have a headache, instead of like that automatic, response to go get a pill, it's like, think about, wait a second, have I had any water? Like, what's my body asking for? Like paying attention. I loved that is a great suggestion, right? It's like slowing down and thinking about what's going on. Like, have I even eaten? I caught myself the other day, like, oh my gosh, it's 4 o'clock. No wonder you have no energy, girl. Like, get some food, right? And I think that, some of us do this and we then go, oh my gosh, like, why am I dragging myself? Because I'm not really taking care of myself. So I think those are great suggestions, and they're so easy to apply if we just, I liked how you started with the awareness. So that's a really important one. Paying attention, starting to notice what's coming up. So that's a beautiful suggestion. So thank you so much for that, Navin.
The tips are
So
really easy. Sorry, go ahead. I
yeah,
said the
no.
tips are really easy. Like just when you're sitting at the table, make sure you're sitting up tall. This your posture, and your core will kick in right away. Like little things like that. It's just incorporating into your daily life.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that, we have to start to shift that thinking. It doesn't have to be complicated because when we think of things like, how am I going to fit this in? Then it's almost like we're making it harder. It's almost like we're talking ourselves out of doing it, right? It's like, this is not going to work. It's never worked before, and so that whole negative chatter just takes the front
Absolutely,
stage, right?
absolutely.
So I love how you're even just giving us an example now about how are you sitting? Are you sitting up? Are you connecting to your core? I love that. What are some of the benefits, whether you're a woman, like basically as a human, right? What are the benefits of having a good, strong core that we need to think about?
Well, the core is our stabilizer muscles. They are our stabilizer muscles, right? So a strong core is very, very important. Okay. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit here. So like the foundation of all movement, call it movement or back health, is your posture. Okay. And where the core comes in is it stabilizes the posture. Okay. It's a stabilizer. So my core is at my hips. So if I stand up here, my core muscles are connected right near my hips and my low back, right? Right there. Okay, and the core goes all the way around. It's not just here. It's all the way around this muscle. It's a stabilizer. Now, if my core is weak, my hips take the brunt of it. Then I end up with hip issues, right? And also my back takes the brunt of it because there's a lot more pressure on the spine and the little muscles in the spine and the joints, the lumbar regions and the spinal cord itself takes the brunt of it and gets compressed more and more and more and takes more, the bones take a brunt of it too. So the core is a stabilizing muscle. So the stronger it is, the taller you will be, the less you'll be leaning forward, and most likely you will have no back pain. There's no reason. So exercise is important, right? Building a strong core, making sure posture is tall. They go hand in hand, right? That's the other thing. It's like sometimes people come to my class because I teach fitness as well, and they go, "Give me one exercise that's going to strengthen my core, or give me one exercise that's going to stop this pain in my hip." And I'm like, I mean, sometimes I just give them because sometimes I find that it's challenging to explain everything. But the bottom line is there is no one exercise. And if somebody is giving you one exercise, most likely that's not going to work. You got to look at yourself as a whole person. You've got to, like, foundation, posture, and core, and then all the other exercises you got to do. I know it kind of sounds overwhelming right now as I'm talking, you got to do all this, but you really don't. You can take like 10 minutes, right, of your day, and just, like I said, go for a walk. Because walking, all you want to do is when you're walking, you're nice and tall. Make sure you're not looking down or on the phone, or check your posture. Are you leaning forward? So just practicing even on a daily basis, walking nice and tall will strengthen your spine, will strengthen your core muscles right there. And you're walking a lot, right? You're climbing stairs, you're walking from one street to another, you're walking through the house, up and down the stairs. Just do it mindfully, like do it by paying attention on how you're doing it. And just that will, the habits, the daily habits of how you're doing it will completely change your life. And that's just the physical aspect I'm talking about. I haven't even incorporated too much emotional or anything like that, but we want to do it mindfully. Like you want to be aware of how you're walking. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love that you're, bringing the mindfulness in because I think one of the things is we're very distracted. We've got these devices that are like oftentimes they're lifelines, right? Like, oh my gosh, my phone died. Oh my gosh, I've lost my phone, right? And we're so attached to these things that we are in a whole different headspace. And so we're forgetting about just being present with ourselves. So that's a beautiful reminder as well. And I like too that you were saying, just even connecting to your body. I noticed I've been working on my lower abdomen, and when I give some attention to that area, it's like, oh, the muscles say thank you. Like they start to engage. And if I start to connect, to my glutes or, my lower back, I notice too when I get up in the morning and I'm feeling a little stiffer, I'll be like, okay, I'm sending love to those parts of my body. And it's interesting. I never used to do this before because I always, just automatically expected my body to do what it's supposed to do until it didn't. And then my body was like, we're done. Like, we're out for the count. And I think that that's something that we have to start to pay more attention to, right? Is how, and you were talking about this at the beginning, like paying attention to the awareness. What is your body trying to tell you? What's coming up? It's not just about keeping it strong, it's also about, are we in the right headspace? Are we putting the right food in our body? And, are we even drinking enough, drinking enough water? Like, these are all important things. So I think too, when I even thinking about my own health journeys, and this is sort of how I've come through it, is because I started looking at my emotional health. And I like how you're incorporating that into this conversation. And I'd love for you to share a bit more about that, especially if you have somebody that maybe they are, as an example, somebody that sits at a desk, or is on a computer all day long. I'm sure it's causing so much stress on the body. How do we approach that from an, physical and emotional, holistic way? What would you recommend?
Yeah, so for somebody who's sitting at the office, or even like you have a home office, maybe you're a coach, or doing some work from home, and we don't, a lot of us aren't aware how long we're sitting. We're on our computer or whatever else we're doing. We're not aware of how we're sitting, and that puts pressure on our low back or our whole back, right? Because look, you are using only certain muscles. You're not using like your glutes, because when the legs are facing forward, maybe you're strengthening your quads a little bit, but your glutes are not strong. And the glutes are important. Your glutes are your bum muscles. Those are important in keeping your posture tall, in walking, in stabilizing your back as well. Like glutes are huge, okay? That's one of the biggest muscles in the body is the glutes, okay? So basically, I went to glutes because I'm gonna. So what it is if you look at my body, look at the body physically, it's like your posture, your core, your leg muscles, your glutes. Those are your major big muscles. You want to keep them strong, okay? That's fine. But the other part that's important is, let's say you're sitting for too long all day, your body's starting to feel stressed because we're not realizing, let's say I'm sitting at my office for long and working away for 3, 4, 5 hours, not even realizing how long it's been. I haven't eaten, like you said, and my body's starting to feel a little stressed. Maybe I haven't had much water. And the stress I'm feeling is like become normal, in the sense that it's become familiar. Every day I go through this, every single day. And I don't realize, I feel like this is normal. I don't even realize that I need to pay attention to it, right? So let's say that's happening. Like after 5, 6 hours, my body starts to complain or say something, or there's stiffness here or a tightness here, or I feel like I'm not paying attention anymore. I'm feeling overwhelmed. There's too much. So mentally, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Physically, my body's getting tired. Emotionally, I'm not probably even paying attention to what's coming up because I'm so distracted by the overwhelm and my pain starting in my physical body. So when that's happening, I'm not aware. My first thought isn't, let me go to the emotions. My first thought is, I have this pain in my body here. This is too much. I can't. So my thoughts start going into like, oh my God, I'm getting overwhelmed, I'm getting stressed out, I'm getting anxiety. I can't do this, or whatever's going on, whatever you have to finish. Oh, I have 15 more minutes to do this. There's no way I'm going to finish this, blah, blah, blah. Your head starts going off. So in that state, you're kind of going into a bit of a flight mode. It's not like a major fight flight mode, but a bit of a fight flight mode. And that's causing stress. Okay. So it's like it's causing stress because the body doesn't know that whatever's going in the mind, whatever the mind is saying, let's assume for now that the thinking that's happening in the mind in that moment is negative. Like, when am I going to finish this? This is due tomorrow. Blah, blah, like, I have to stay up and do this. I don't have time to eat or cook or whatever thought, that just not one positive thought. So what ends up happening is the body doesn't realize the difference between what's real and what you're thinking. It thinks that there's danger. The body thinks there's actually danger. So it starts to go into a fight flight mode. Your body pumps cortisol into your body. And the only way to store cortisol is to store it into fat cells. So the body starts to create fat, right? So that's the process that's happening in your body without you knowing that that's what's going on. Because you're too busy thinking about these thoughts and just giving too much energy to these thoughts and giving all your power away to these thoughts when you don't need to. Okay? Because those thoughts aren't most likely going to be realized. They're just happening in your head. And so your body's in fight flight mode. So it's trying to get you out of danger, basically, you know. So when you're in fight flight mode, your body's gonna either fight or flight. That's why it's called fight flight. So your body's probably fighting and then putting cortisol in your body and doing this, right? Or it's gonna flee. That means you're gonna get out of your space and you're just gonna go do something else. Maybe you're just gonna go to a bar and just get away from everything and fly out of here and get a drink or something, right? So that's how the body deals with it. And as I'm talking about it, notice that none of these choices or what's happening is positive, and it's not helping you. None of these are helpful behaviors or thoughts or whatever. Okay? And it could be that you're going into this cycle every day or every other day and not realizing and maybe don't know how to get out of it. So you need help, and then you have to go to Brenda, who's going to help you with the tapping. Okay, so that's what happens to the body, right? That's what's happening here. You're sitting on a desk, okay? But the other thing that happens is now, let's say you decide, I want to change this. I can't live like this anymore. I want to do something about this. Okay, I can't do this anymore. So what's the first thing you could do? Maybe you don't know. Maybe you want to get in touch with a professional who can help you. But the other one, some of the suggestions that I'm going to give you here that you might want to start with is first thing you want to start doing is just maybe get up and go for a 10-minute walk. That's going to dissipate some of the energy that you're feeling. And see if you can start to calm down as you're walking. And I would highly encourage you not to turn your phone on during that time. Because the device it's going to do is it's going to what is the word I'm looking for? It's just going to not magnetize, but it's going to make the thoughts even more. It's gonna, how do I explain it? So what happens is when we're tuned into the phone and we're in this state of fight flight, you're gonna accentuate it even more. It's gonna like the volume of it's going to get even louder in your brain. Okay, because you're tuning in. When you tune into a phone, think of it this way: there's a ton of people at the other end that are logged in to that space, and so all of that energy is flooding to you, and so you're going to get even more overwhelmed. Okay, so you have to turn it off, because your intention right now is to calm you down, So let's move the physical body first. Okay, create some movement. And then once you're feeling a little calmer, you can start breathing. Tune into your breath. Because when you tune into your breath, look where my hands went. You're going to leave your mind and you're going to go into your body. Your attention is going to go into your body. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. But your attention is going to go into your body. So then when you don't give energy to those thoughts and the mind, and you start consciously paying attention to the breath, you don't even have to breathe heavy. You just pay attention to the breath. You just notice the breath, that it's there. You're right away not feeding the thoughts. And so the thoughts will start to go away. Your body will start to calm down. And your body will reverse and stop making that cortisol in your body, and the parasympathetic nervous system will kick in. So what happens is when you're in a fight flight mode, your autonomic nervous system kicks in. It's in the driver's seat, and you can't let it be there, okay? Because that's where you're going to go. So now parasympathetic nervous kicks in as you start to calm down. You want that one to be in the driver's seat. That's where you want to go and live. So eventually, this is where you want to be. Okay, you want to stay calm in that kind of situation. And from that state of calm, you will get an answer of what to do next. This is where the answers will just come to you. It'll say, well, okay, it's been too long sitting here. Let's go get a bite to eat. Let's go cook something healthy. Like, that part of you will start taking care of you and you're going to start trusting it. And you'll realize you don't have to live like you were before. And so your whole experience of being behind a desk now with a computer will be completely different. You're going to make different choices. You're going to go, okay, it's been 2 hours. I'm going to go take a snack, get a glass of water. I'm going to walk around for a couple of minutes, come back. I'm ready to really be focused here. And your focus is going to come back. You're not going to feel as overwhelmed. You're going to learn to manage yourself. So this is a healthy living situation. That's just like a contrast. I'm just giving you a contrast so you can see there is a huge contrast between having to live in flight mode and living a more calmer life. There really is a huge difference. And when you do experience this calmer life, you will not want to go back here. You will be like, I'm glad, I'm so grateful I'm eating healthy because look how I feel. I'm so grateful I'm moving my body because look, I feel so great. And my feelings, let's say you've also went through and dealt with your feelings because you're going to have to anyways. Then you're going to come back and say, God, I feel so great because I feel full inside. I don't feel empty anymore. So, there's a lot more to this than the example that I'm giving you. But basically, that's what we really want to do is go from this state of negativity, overwhelm, to a state of feeling amazingly great about yourself and loving yourself, and living life from that place is is the best. Like you won't care if you don't have to go on your phone anymore because you feel so great without it. Not addicted to your phone anymore. It's not ruling your life. You are in charge of your life. You've taken your power back from that phone, that device you're sitting in front of, that desk, whatever it is. You're in charge. You take your power back. That's basically what's really happening here.
I love all of these great suggestions, Navin, and it was reminding me of previously, I've not been formally diagnosed with hypoglycemic, but low blood sugar. But my sort of go-to was always a Twix bar. And I'd sort of, would justify, I need this quick little fix and had no idea, I get this nice little high of sugar and then boom. But it came out more in my mood. So I was a little bit more sharp. I was a little more, well, not so nice. It was not as pleasant. So I found that it was a very short, like feeling of like, okay, I feel good. It was like maybe a few minutes and then I kind of crashed. And it took a while to get this sorted out. And I started to pay attention and realize that I need to connect to my protein. I need to be looking at what kind of protein am I eating. So, but the other thing too that I noticed was that when I am feeling that way, like you were mentioning, I totally can relate. Those negative thoughts, my temper, I feel so short. My fuse is like ready, just ready to go. Like if somebody asks me one more thing, like I'm ready to and I think, that's the challenge. And when we start to pay attention to, okay, I need to catch my breath. One of the things I've learned to have more grace with myself is to give myself, some space to be like, it's okay. We're figuring this out as we go, giving myself a little bit of compassion. I'm not going to have it always figured out. And I noticed the last couple of days it's been a bit go, go, go. And my nervous system doesn't like it because I've been more in the calmer parasympathetic, like you mentioned, the calmer energy. So when I get into that busy go, go, go energy, my body is like, hold on, we weren't doing this anymore. How come we're doing this? And it's like reminding me that we need to slow down. So I like how you've introduced some baby steps here that we can, just get started. Get our body moving. Think about what we're eating. Do you have any tips? I know that these devices are such, we can't get away from them. Is there any way we can maybe incorporate this to help us so that we are being more mindful around, okay, wait a second, I need to maybe take a break. Because I know for myself, and I'm sure I'm not alone with this, is I get going and I'm like in like really good workspace. Like my focus is good. I've got good ideas coming. And I'm like, I just want to do one more thing, one more thing. And it turns into 2, 3 hours later. And then I'm like, why does my head hurt? Why do I feel drained? And it's like, oh my gosh. So, what thoughts do you have about that? Because I'm sure a lot of our listeners could appreciate some ideas.
Yeah, totally, Brenda. Just what you mentioned. It's like, just what you noticed is if you've been on the device for a long time, you will feel drained because being connected to the device, you will feel that drain because all your energy is being sucked up by the device. Okay. Like literally physically energetically, like it's got that radiation energy, it'll just draw all your pull, and then you'll feel drained, and then you'll go, oh, it's late, I don't have time, I feel tired. Oh, I don't think I have energy to do anything else with my life today. I'm just going to sit here, watch TV or something. And so you'll be on another device, right? So what happens is these are addictive. That's why they're addictive. So even though you did, I'm going to check this one thing, and then you ended up spending 2, 3 hours because they're addictive. Okay. So, I'm just going to give you some tips about what I do is that I don't, I don't use my device before going to bed. Okay. That's one thing you don't want to do. So maybe let's say you came home from work, you're tired, you maybe ate already, and now you want to watch TV, or you're on your device, maybe you're scrolling through some of the social media stuff, and it's just relaxing, and it's your time to chill and all that, and that's fine, but just pay attention to how your energy is feeling in your body for being with that device for so long. How do you feel after? Do you feel so tired that you just want to go to bed? How much energy do you have? Okay. So before bed, see if you can like wean yourself off like an hour before bed. An hour before bed, see if you can do something else, even if it's like physical, like even if it's something you're touching the ground, or maybe you're doing some chores, or maybe just do the dishes or something, just do something that's not so device oriented. Anything physical, or you can do your journaling before bed, right? Or the other thing you could do is you can again pay attention to your inner body. And it doesn't have to be breathing, but just maybe you can listen to, like if you want to use your device, maybe you can tune into one of those meditation apps and just listen to that, but then put it away, right? Put it away before bed. Uh, so before bed, that's one of the big things. Because one thing I think it was Wayne Dyer that kind of said you're going to marinate when you go to bed into certain thoughts. Same kind of thing here is if you keep your device by your bed, or you go to sleep right after, those are the last thoughts you're thinking, and you're gonna go to sleep with it for like hours, and when you wake up, you're probably gonna pick it up again. So don't keep your device beside your bed, you know, keep it out of your room, some another room, maybe a living room or kitchen or wherever. Let it charge over there overnight or something. So then you don't have those, and you're not gonna, that's not the first thing you're gonna pick up when you get up in the morning. Maybe when you get up in the morning, look out the window and go, looks like a great day. Look at that. Look at that tree, and just take a breath and say, I'm so grateful. Maybe you can do a gratitude or two and say, I'm so grateful that I have this another day here today. I'm so grateful. What can you think of? What are you grateful for today that you have another day? Because as soon as you pick up your device, you forget that you even have this day or you have this life or you even exist or you're even living. Like your device has power over you. So here, this is a suggestion to take the power back and live your life because you have this one life, and that's what I do. I mean, usually before I used to go on a device and check what the weather was like. And now I open the blinds and just check first if the sun is up or if there's a lot of clouds or it looks like it might rain. I don't know, right? And just tuning into little things like that. And there's a tree outside my room and outside my kitchen. It's the same tree. And I always look at it every day and I go, wow, what a beautiful tree you are. And sometimes I feel this connection with the tree. I can just kind of feel that connection. I go, wow. And I go, what's in you is in me as well. We're the same. Like, it's the same river that's flowing through the trees, flowing through me. And maybe that's one spiritual thing you can do when you get up is just connect with a tree or connect with your plant in your room. Say hi to your plant in your room instead of picking up the device. And it will shift your whole energy field for the rest of the day. Because this is where your parasympathetic nervous kicks in. But if you pick up your device, your sympathetic nervous kicks in, you just gave the driver's seat to the sympathetic. That's how your day is going to go. You're going to be in overwhelmed fight flight mode. But now if you just look at that tree or your plant in your room and say, what am I grateful for today? And it will bring you to your center, and the parasympathetic nervous is leading the way now to start your day that way. And so that is good for your back health too, right? Because there's no stress going through your back. Because where does the central nervous system go through? Your back. So if all this fight flight's going through your body, through your back, you're going to be tense and tight all day. Yeah, you're going to feel pain, right? But the other way, you're going to be more relaxed. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love all of these tips and I am going to be starting today, starting tonight. I love the tree because that's one of my happy places is going as much as I can, get into the forest, hug a tree if I can. I'm grateful I have a dog, so I often will go walking him before bed. And it's benefiting not just him, but for me as well. Because if there's something feeling a little unsettling in my body, or if I don't watch a lot of TV, but I have a couple of favorite shows I like. I notice my hips tighten right up. So I'm like, okay, it's time to go for a walk. Like that's kind of like my body's sort of like, let's move, we need to go. So yeah, I love those ideas. I think too, it really is simple. I've started a gratitude journal. I do that in the morning. And I remember I was hearing somebody say, we sometimes get caught up in like what to be grateful for, but I loved how you made it really simple. Like look outside, even just be grateful for your bed, grateful for for your comforter, grateful for your pillows. Like it doesn't have to be this. I think we get caught up in this big thing, like it has to be this elaborate thing. And I think it's all about being as simple as possible. That's what I'm kind of learning as I'm getting wiser, not just, I'm not going to say older, wiser. But I think too, it's nice reminders of just it's taking care of the whole body and the mind, because it's not like I'm working at physically taking care of my body. And I love how you've really clarified that for us today on the call, because I think, I'll go and get physio or massage and it feels good in the moment, but then am I, giving that emotional support to my body afterwards? And I think that we have to start to make those connections. And I love how you've really talked about that today on this call. And, I think that people are going to take away so many golden nuggets here. It is like there's so much for people to value from what you've shared. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts for my, and this is probably a little selfish because I am going through menopause. If you have any thoughts on what we can do, if there's anything in particular, whether we're pre-menopause, menopause, post-menopause, like what we should be looking for to support that whole mind, body, and soul connection.
Well, you know, I've been through menopause, and my journey was not as challenging as I've heard other people go through it. And I think that's because I've taken care of my health, like from a young age, like since my 20s, right? And so, what the tips I would give you is that whether you're premenopause, perimenopause, postmenopause, your health is number one. Your health is number one. And, you know, menopause, I mean, for women, the menopause is, I believe, I'm going to just come out and say this, is a very spiritual time. It is a time for growth, change, transformation. There's a deeper aspects to it. It's not just a physical thing you're going through. There's a whole shift happening in you. That's what happened to me. That's why I'm saying it this way. And again, to pay attention to the body signals and your intuition is coming to a forefront. Okay. We are evolving. You are evolving. So it is not a bad thing. Welcome it. And I think in our society, we think it's a disease of some kind, but it isn't. It is the next stage of evolution for you. And welcome it because it is, while you're going through it, it might be challenging. A lot of people women get hot flashes, back pain, right? And all kinds of inflammation and things like that. So what you're being called to do is listen, pay attention. What you're being called to do is make changes. Let's say if your back's hurting, it could be inflammation. It could be because your estrogen levels are dropping. It could be your estrogen levels dropping. Could be inflammation. Could be you're physically not as fit, and your body needs you to become a little bit more fit to go through this transformation. Could be that you're holding on emotions that you haven't faced for years and years and years. And you're feeling it maybe in your back somewhere. Because remember, our backs are holding a lot of stories in there. Our backs are holding emotion. So it is a journey that I highly encourage you to embrace and to release the fear, because it is an amazing journey, because you will transform into not only a human, but you'll become a human being. There's a part of you that's human, there's a part of you that's being. Your being wants to emerge during this time. And when you allow the being to emerge, you become a human being, you become more balanced. And that's how I see menopause. Okay. So I guess, and we all will go through different symptoms, right? Just because you have a back pain and maybe it's related to menopause doesn't mean that you have to constantly take these medications every day. Like I said, perhaps there's some inflammation there from sitting too long. So you got to, again, going back, you got to do some physical. You got to change some of the diet. Like you don't want to eat, you're going to stop eating those processed foods. Your body's telling you to do that because when we eat like processed foods, boxed foods, or whatever you want to call them, fast foods, your body has a hard time processing. And your body needs the energy to go through menopause. So it's telling you, stop giving me this food. I'm going to complain because now I need energy to digest that food instead of allowing your transformation to happen. So I'm going to complain right now because you're going to have to listen. And then your emotions, you're going to feel all these emotions come up. Maybe your anger will be the first one coming up. And it's okay because your body's again telling you those are toxic emotions you're holding on. Your sadness is valid. It's okay to be sad. But we don't want to keep it in our bodies anymore. You don't have to. Take your power back from that. Your hurt was justified. Let's validate it. You were hurt. Maybe you were abandoned. Maybe something happened to you when you were little. Let's face those emotions because at this time, your body, your energetic system needs the energy to transform you. So you gotta detox. That's why you gotta declutter. You want to remove those toxic emotions, toxic thoughts. So you're working on your mindset as well, and your toxic food and your toxic physical habits. You know, so your body is doing its best to transform you into a more balanced human being. So it's not a bad thing to go to a menopause. It's an honor. It's a privilege for us women. So again, I'm going to say it, embrace it, welcome it. Whatever you're going through, you can get through it.
I love how you explain that, and it's a beautiful reminder. It was probably about a year ago I went to a workshop where it was very specific. It was for women, but it was very specific on focusing on our womb. And it was like, wow, it like opened my mind in such a beautiful way because I hadn't realized, because I had had so many different health issues, in particular with my womb, my uterus, that was, I disassociated from it. I wasn't even aware of it. And I have really enjoyed the connection with that part of my body again. And I love how you have really brought this, this word menopause to a whole new meaning. Like I actually feel quite uplifted about the process, the experience of going through these transitional periods of our life is very enriching. But, the way it can come across in society is not with that kind of light, of that energy. And so I love how you've shared that with all of us, with all the listeners. I think are going to be like, huh, I never really thought of it that way, especially if you're going through that. And I think, I welcome everyone listening to think about things with a curious mind. Maybe you're not in that moment able to do that right now with some of these suggestions, but be curious when these sensations are coming up in your body to like be, I wonder what that's trying to tell me. And I notice when I have started to do that myself, it really softens because we're the worst critics for ourselves, right? We judge ourselves, we put all these expectations on ourselves. And so when we kind of come from a place of curiosity, it's like it's a softer kind of lens as opposed to, like these daggers we throw at ourselves. Like, forget about everybody else. It's like, what are we saying? I often would say if people have heard what we were talking about in our heads, they'd be like, you need to go get some help. Like, this is not okay. So we keep it all inside because we're like, yeah, like no one can hear what we're talking about because it's that, out there. But we need to, like you were saying, we need to get it out. We need to get it out safely. We can't keep putting it in, pushing it down, because the other thing too is we're reinforcing that. If we have children, if we're parents, we're reinforcing that, and often we're doing a lot of the time we're doing what we've witnessed, right? What our parents, our grandmothers, our it's generational. So when we can start to go, wait, and I love you've talked about this a lot through our conversation, Navin, and it's about empowerment, bringing that power, making those choice. We're always in a position of choice, and that really ties us back into being our true selves. So I couldn't be more grateful to spend this time with you, and I've learned so much myself, so I know our listeners are going to get so much from you. And I would love for you to share, where can people find you? What's the best way for them to connect with you?
Okay. Before I say that, can I add to what you just said?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. It's what you said. It's like we need to openly talk about menopause. Because that's when we openly talk about it, it has no power over us anymore. It is not threatening. It is just a process of life. It's transformation, right? And being present with it, like you've been saying, being present with it is where transformation happens in the present. It only happens in the present. So your body wants you to come to present so that transformation can happen from the inside out. Okay. So, where you can get a hold of me, that's a good question. I do have a website. It's navinjetha.com. So you can go on the website, and I can also leave you a link to a landing page if you like, Brenda. And there is a checklist there on how to take care of it. Some of it's more like a tips for back pain. If that's okay, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll put all your information in the show notes so people will be able to access your website. Those are great options if they want to check out your landing page. And are you on Instagram or Facebook, any of those platforms?
I am on Facebook, and
Okay.
yeah, and it's Navin Jetha, and I'm
Okay,
also on
great.
YouTube, which is Navin Jetha as well.
Okay, that's great. So we will make sure that people can find you, and they can are you working with clients individually? So if people wanted to work with you and, maybe dive deeper, because you've offered some great, like it's got I've got my curiosity radar up because you've got a lot of good thought here of the whole holistic approach. And I think, it's such a privilege to have a conversation with somebody like yourself because you're looking at the whole package. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of health professionals aren't always, doing that. They're kind of focusing on their one particular area, but that's not how we work. As I loved how you said human beings and bringing us back into alignment, that full alignment. So yeah, I think that there's so much that people could learn from you, and we'll provide all that information so people can connect with you however they would like. So I
I
want to thank
definitely
you.
offer one-on-one sessions at the moment. And I also like to put a group together. So absolutely contact me and I'd love to chat.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you again so much for joining us and being a part of the Tapping into Life community. So we'll look forward to maybe having you back for future episodes. It's been such a great
Absolutely.
conversation.
Yeah, I was wondering if I can also leave like my a booking link, and then if you want to book a free session with me, I would welcome that.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can put that all into the notes and show notes, and people can directly connect with you, which is making it super easy. So thank you. That's really great. I really appreciate that on behalf of all our listeners. So I just want to thank you again, Navin, for taking the time to tap into life with us and bringing us all your wisdom and your expertise. It has been such a pleasure to share this time with you. And I welcome my listeners to please take the opportunity to connect with Navin. You are not going to be disappointed. She is such a beautiful soul, as you can see. The energy and her wisdom and her expertise is just truly a gift. So, thank you again from the bottom of my heart to yours. And I wish you all, my listeners, all the best. Take care.
Thank you, Brenda.